Okay, I'm ready. Are we ready?
So, hello everybody. We start with our second session, and our first speaker is Frode Hegland.
Hello.
I think you can shortly introduce yourself.
Oh, introduce myself. Yes, I'm his colleague, Mark Anderson's colleague. I'm currently doing a PhD as an adult, as you can tell, maybe in Southampton. I also do software and so on. I used to work with Frode Hegland, hence my little, must mention him earlier. Importantly, I have 4 pieces of chocolate. So questions get rewarded with chocolate at the end, okay? Or I lock the doors. Right, so visual meta. Visual meta is an approach to add the document's metadata to the end of a document. Oh, you're not excited. Okay, fair enough. Doesn't sound very exciting, does it? So on a paper book, we have meta in the beginning. We have the ISBN, where it was printed, the date, all that stuff. For the record, here is a meta from a PDF that was downloaded from ACM. No information in it whatsoever. On a Mac, you do get info. I'm sure it's similar in Windows. No author name, no publication date, absolutely nothing. So back to the paper data, the metadata. So all visual meta does, in the most basic sense, is to add the information about the document to the end of the PDF. You know when you've been reading academic PDFs and you don't even know the date of publication, right? So it uses the BibTeX structure for presenting the information, which will become clear later why I chose BibTeX, but BibTeX is not something I'm married to. I already have a wife. I'm perfectly happy to change that. This is not the main point. The full visual meta can have a lot of stuff in it, but it's designed to be easy to read. Of course, you can't see this, but the very first sentence in the visual meta says what this is. It explains visual meta, because the idea is both computational reading and human reading. Oh, what's in orange is the actual data. So for instance, here it says the name of the software that produced this document and the name of the, the version and the version of the generator. This is what you saw earlier. This is the basics. It's the name of the author, the date, and so on. And again, it actually spells out in English what that is. Document name is often not the same as the title of the document. So that's made clear here. This can be used for addressability purposes. This is describing the formatting. For instance, the headings, heading level 1, Helvetica, bold, heading level 2, Helvetica, certain size, bold, etc. And also how citations are described in the body of the document. It can even support a glossary. So it says here, a glossary term is displayed in this way with these derivations, these relationships. This is who wrote them, and all of that good stuff is in there. And it can contain all kinds of special stuff. In my software, Liquid Author has something called a dynamic view that can be stored here. Graph information can be stored here. Tables and maps, whatever's in the document can be described semantically here. Oh, I used the word semantic. So it's described to be completely readable 500 years in the future. Someone who's never heard of this can just, oh, this is the stuff.
I meant that in the nice way, not the Italian way.
Oh, thank you. You should have put a meta on that, which you did. So a more inclusive definition then becomes visual meta as an approach to add the document's metadata, including how to cite the document, how it's formatted, and what it contains to the end of the document. It makes sense, even though it may not seem exciting. Okay. Benefits include things like advanced interactions, not just when you're authoring, but when you're reading. A PDF is a frozen document, basically. But here, you put all that stuff at the end, and the reader software can use that and do what you want. For instance, one thing that I will actually do a walkthrough of is what we call augmented copying, which is copying as a citation. That is possible, because it knows what it is. And that follows that it's presentation neutral. When submitting my paper to this, my first conference, the amount of changes I had to go through were absolutely insane. And I know you've all gone through it, you know. There has to be this weird typeface. You have to have the DOI, even though you don't actually have the DOI. All these issues that we have to deal with. With this approach, you do it in a nice academic format, but the reader can reformat it, put it in whatever way they want. That should save millions of student hours. Server surfacing, this is also important. When you have the clear information about what a document is written in a document, it means that a server can search for tables. If you have tables of data, if they're described, then what's on the X and the Y axis is clear. So you can say, I want to find so-and-so information in these 2 million documents. It can easily extract that, no AI required. And it's legacy safe. For a regular PDF reader, it's just text. That took actually a couple of years to come up with. In 2016, when I first started hating PDFs, I suggested we put all kinds of stuff in a PDF. But you can't really do that for security. They have all ways of scanning. If your steganography doesn't work, nothing works. So that's why when we put it in as legal data. And robust. This is quite cool. Some people get hung up on this, but you can actually print a PDF with a visual meta or a doc or HTML. It doesn't matter. You can print it, do what you want, scan it, OCR, and you've lost no metadata. This is where I expect a massive amount of footballs. This is, I just turned 51, so this may be an age-related thing, that we look at archiving when we're older, right? And you have older documents. So much is lost. How many old PDFs do you read that are basically photographs? Kind of useless, right? Here, the idea behind this is that we print it on special plastic or whatever, and in 1,000 years they will still be readable. CD-ROMs are already dying. So this is really, really important if you value the information going forward. So I can't see my notes here, which is good for you because that means I'll hopefully speak less. But I have produced a word processor called Liquid Author. It's available for macOS. Please try it out. I would love your feedback. It produces PDF with visual meta, and I've now made a Liquid Reader, which is a PDF reader that can read this stuff. Because to me, concept is one thing. Implementation, obviously, come up with all kinds of things. So we had to build it to try it and realize all our mistakes and user testing on ourselves. So I will do a walkthrough of copy and paste this citation. We start in Liquid Reader. Oh, Dave had to be in another thing. Anyway, this is Dave Millard from Southampton with other people. Copy arbitrary text. Just normal copy. Just Command C. Go to author. Attempt to paste. And this tiny dialog says, this clipboard contains rich author paste. Do you want it to be pasted as text or citation? So what it really just contains is the BibTeX. And why I've chosen BibTeX, it's a bit political. It's because in some places you get it kind of for free, but it really doesn't matter. Don't get hung up on what data format it is. It's just a list of stuff. And here we have a pasted citation. The key is when you click on that citation, you can see it has all the proper metadata that was available for this document. And you can change the way it's shown. That's just proof that it is not just plain text. Similarly important, let's say I've done some research in one of my author documents. Click on a citation. I can now choose to copy citation. So that copies the whole citation again as an intelligent little bundle. Go to paste, get exactly the same dialogue, same result. So what we've seen is copy from one app to another, and we've seen copying within. In both cases, we're using augmented copy. Chris Guttridge at Southampton came up with that term. I think it's great. Or Doug Engelbart. So we have a BibTeX-like payload. And this is what's really, really, really exciting to me. I basically realized this in a lunch discussion with David Price last week, so lots of credit for him. I always knew that copying and visual meta was related, but it's the same effing thing. That is incredible. I am just so grateful that this happened, because that means So we can move information around as interactable data and store it as plain text. Are you now getting the point of this? Right, it's nice to move data around, but if you move it in an esoteric format, it's going to get lost at some point. So here we take the explicit data, because there's not much. You know, the example we have here is just one BibTeX. Right. Any questions at this point?
So I see this useful in like my lab where I'm doing the preservation work. We're getting a lot of documents, a lot of digital documents sent to us, and the format that we should be using is PDFs. And that's what libraries use, that's what archives use. And these PDFs are fairly flat. There's not much data there. And we're having to physically go through and do all the meta tagging.
Sorry, you left on that. Yes. sorry. Yes.
I earned it, didn't I?
Yes.
And so what you're suggesting is that that step of us having to augment ourselves, the metadata, will be taken, that will be taken over by this system that you're suggesting.
Yes, but
Not all of the metadata, but a lot more than what we're able to
Yeah.
muster right now from the PDFs that we're getting.
Absolutely, and I will answer that in the closing slide.
Okay.
So the visual meta is an approach to add the document's metadata, including how to cite the document, how it's formatted, and what it contains to the end of the document, and to augment copying with the same metadata. Now, in terms of what you said, as an aside, you can actually add the meta after publishing. If you go to ACM Digital Library, download a PDF, on that page you can copy the BibTeX. If you then open that PDF in Liquid Reader and just do paste, it'll apply it. Right? If you use our Chrome extension, it'll do everything automatically. But my point that I'm showing you, based on what you're saying, it doesn't have to be based on PDF. It can be on anything. So it's just the idea of no matter what the digital work you do, at the end of it, just write what it is. You know, why hide it away? You know, we have so many things that are rotting because of format. In here, in normal human language, it says, this thing is supposed to be a so-and-so. If you want to recreate it, here are the variables for these different types of data. Do what you want with them. I sent this to a few friends. Vintsurf is very supportive, so I'm very happy about that. I sent it, of course, to Ted Nelson, who asked me what world I'm living in. Just leave that on the list. I have 3 more chocolates. You don't count. You're kind of extra question.
I don't need chocolate.
It's got to be some questions or comments, or what's the point, or something. Yes?
It's a bit unsure where's the difference between your projects, so visual meta, and citation software like Citation or Zotero, where you are essentially pasting all the BibTeX.
I should give you a whole box of chocolate for that question. The difference is when you use Mendeley or Zotero, EndNote or whatever, you have a database that refer to stuff. This removes that. It takes the identity into the stuff. Right? Because if you are reading a PDF and you need to cite from that today, you cannot just select text and go in and paste it. You have to go to Mendeley or use a plugin in Word, and then you have to refer to the database. What this does, it's saying, hello, this is who I am. It makes the data self-aware to an extent, so you don't need that database.
Also, if the database goes corrupt or goes not lost in like 50 years, there won't be.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, absolutely. That's part of it. I do not want to take them out of business. That's not what I'm trying to do. It's the opposite. I was just talking to Dave Miller downstairs, who talked about how he organized his citations by document. This kind of stuff means that you're guaranteed to have the infrastructure of documents. So if you want to build an amazing visualization system for citations, you can do that. But you don't have to do what I spent most of my PhD doing, realizing that most citations are crap, thanks to Mark Anderson. I have 2 more chocolates.
Careful with the common goes.
No. Yes, no, you have taught me well. 2 more questions, please. Did you get a chocolate?
No.
You were too early, you don't get a chocolate.
Well, I could say something anyway.
Oh, okay, yeah, and then you, yes.
So I didn't understand the part about, you say it was legal data or legacy data? How is the thing took a long time to fit it in?
Oh, it was that towards the end, you mean?
Well, early you said it took.
Oh,
how do
legacy
you
readers.
can't change the PDF, you can't do this, you can't do that, but we figured out how to stick it in there.
Oh, right. So obviously I dream about a day where this is just normal, and everybody produces this. But obviously that's not going to happen immediately. So the idea is that you can paste the BibTeX that you find as visual metadata at the back of the document. That's it. So it's really simple. You use our reader, but of course this is completely open. This is something that's just beats water, it's just normal. But any PDF reader that uses this system should be able to just paste it in, and that's why BibTeX is useful, because you find the data open to BibTeX. So without having converted into different lists, just paste it in, and it's saved. It's just another page in the document.
But the part that was most interesting to me was the description of headings are like this and so on.
That would not happen then.
Okay.
Thank you for pointing that out. All that good stuff would be missing.
Okay. I do have to say that if Steve DeRose was here, he'd be jumping up and down saying, but XML, digital archaeologists. The whole point of XML is that even if you don't read ASCII, if you don't understand anything, you can figure out the structure 1,000 years from now. We don't have this problem with NASA kept all their paper tapes and they kept moving them up to newer things till they tried to read them on the CD-ROM and they didn't even know how many bits made up a word anymore.
Fine, you get a chocolate.
But
Oh, sorry.
the
answer to that is very simple.
Solves the problem.
I'm not trying to compete with anyone else.
Yeah.
The XML people, do your XML stuff. But I'm an academic, partly, and we have to use effing PDFs.
Yes.
It's the law of the universe, right? So I cannot give my work as XML. And unless I print my XML as source, when you print an XML, you've lost everything when it comes to meta. So it's just another approach. But of course, I want to go, I'm a Doug Engelbart acolyte or whatever you want to call me. Of course this could be more digital. Of course we should go to XML. There's no question about that. How do we put enough stuff in what we use now to get to the next step?
I'd rather not.
I'd give you a chocolate, but I'd give it.
We're moving the overton window on academic publishing. And an interesting thing that came out of the future of text was talking to someone from Elsevier, and they could see the point that actually it's something they could get behind because they could make a bit of coin on the way. And but the point is, they're part of the loop, the citation loop. So actually getting out of this current thing of copying and pasting bad data, never looking at it, and just replicating bad data, which is what a lot of academic citations at the moment. This is a nudge towards the sort of the end point of an
And journals used to, at least in some fields, say on the first page, this is how you cite this article.
Yeah.
But it's often given in a print era form that is actually useless going forward because it doesn't show you the ontology of what's that's
you don't know whether it's volume B or it's physics
Absolutely.
letters B as the journal.
So stripping it back to BibTeX or another reference system seems to be a more robust way of shifting from where we are now and playing with digital paper and PDF to something that will be more automatic and more digital.
In closing,
Sorry, there was another.
oh, of course. So
Just a very quick one. Thank you very much for a great talk. Maybe my question is,
good catch.
thank you for trusting that the question makes sense. I think I understood it. It's a quite nice, elegant, generic solution. I was wondering, seen from a user's task, and if I want to use the metadata, how can you handle that? What's the user task? And wouldn't I need in different
Oh, you
circumstances?
care about the
and
user. You
for
want the
different
user in the
tasks?
loop. Okay, fine.
I would need different kinds of information for different tasks, right? So
Yeah, well, the idea is from the, Facebook people like to tag their pictures and stuff. So there is a bit more of wanting, we understand metadata more. We want to add richness to our data, right? You can imagine students or academics, whoever, they want to be found, they want this to be, so they just use software that produces this. To produce it is easy. You click a box saying visual meta, yes. In our proof of concept. Of course, I hope everybody will use it. But, when you open it again, it's depending on the software. It's completely dependent on that. All it's doing is the years that I've spent trying to define amazing spaces for visualizing citations, and then I just cannot get the data, or something is broken, it's not correct, it's missed. Oh my God, this is just storing the stuff so developers in the future can just fly with it. Maybe one of the things that really made this happen as well is I'm editing a book called The Future of Text. And if you have suggestions, please go to The Future of Text. Just search online, you'll find it. Some of the great people in the room here are contributing. We are publishing the book in 3 formats. It'll be published on paper with visual meta. It will be published digitally in whatever format, and it'll be published on metal. We're going to etch a version on metal. We want this book to be readable in at least 500 years' time. So that's why we're thinking about the richness of the digital, but also the long-term describing what it is. Thank you very, very much.